Hey everybody, it's Danny here. Have you ever been to a board game convention, or are you simply someone who just watches from the sidelines as you scroll through your feed and see all these other people buying giant amounts of games? Well, recently I went to PAX Australia in Melbourne, and I recently had that same experience of getting super excited and buying some games to take home to play. In this video, I'll be looking at 5 board games that I purchased from PAX Australia, which I've added to my collection. This is a new collection board game video. So please stay tuned as I share some of my first initial impressions about why I bought these games with you. Now, if you haven't seen my other PAX video, please check it out on my main YouTube page. And so now the moment that you've all been waiting for, we're going to take a look at some of the board games that I bought from PAX and put in my suitcase home while I had to throw out my entire clothing collection. More on that on another time. The first game that I got was one that was demoed by Daryl Chow at his booth Origame, and I absolutely fell in love as soon as I saw the components. Buffet Boss is kind of reminiscent of a game called Animal Upon Animal. It's a stacking game where each player is going to be given a bowl, which is made of wood and these beautiful, colorful wooden components. And there's going to be a series of ingredient cards that come out each round. And each ingredient card has a corresponding wooden piece that goes with it. Players are going to be drafting those cards, which have different victory point values printed on them. And then they're also going to be taking the corresponding piece and they're going to be placing it on their bowl, stacking them up vertically as they go. The one thing about this game that makes it truly interesting is that you might take a piece that best fits your bowl, but you might leave a really precarious and tricky piece for the other players to take. You also each have 2 secret objectives, which only one of them you can score at the end of the game. So the objective might be having the most pieces touching your bowl, or having the most vegetables, or having like 2 points for every meat ingredient that's stored in your bowl. Having those secret ingredient objectives means that you've got like a mission to try and fulfill, and you can kind of shift and influence what sort of things that you take. I also like the fact that this box on the side has a little ruler, so at the end of the game, whoever has the highest stack of pieces that hasn't fallen over will get an additional, I think, 5 points. Now, in addition to that, there's a really quirky rule. If your stack of pieces falls off, you have to follow the 3-second rule, which I think is a universal rule for picking up all of the food that's fallen on the floor, blowing on it, and then being able to put those pieces back on your bowl. I just love these small thematic touches in such a bright, vibrant tabletop experience. So the next game I want to talk about is a very tiny small box game called Sail. It's basically a 2-player trick-taking card game where the aim of the game is trying to move your ship around these islands, past the tentacles of a kraken that's trying to damage your ship, to try and get to the end space on the other side of the board. What's interesting about this game is the trick-taking element, because there's different symbols on the different pirate cards you play, and if you match on certain symbols, you can improve the way your ship moves by moving forward, or getting your ship to move towards the player that won that particular trick. And the board itself kind of has this rhombus style map to it, where the parts of the board kind of go towards players who sit on either side. And so if the player at the top wins the trick and they match the symbol, then the ship will go towards them. If the player at the bottom wins the trick, then the ship goes towards them. And so it's kind of moving in this zigzag formation, trying to navigate the ocean, navigate the kraken, and avoiding damage. It is a really cool game, and I like the marriage between moving your ship, matching the icons, and playing the tricks. And I'm not generally a fan of trick-taking games, But in this game, I feel like the trick taking is part of what drives a lot of the strategy along. The trick taking isn't the sole heart of the game, which I really like. And there's different scenarios that you can play through, different configurations. I want to get this to the table just because of how small and compact it is. And I just think it's just one that me and my hubby will really enjoy. And not to mention, I actually am a fan of this art. It probably was a draw card for me in getting this game, but I can see how some of this color palette can be a little bit divisive, but I actually really like it. The next game is a game that appears in the Castle series by Devere Games. I own a game called The Red Cathedral, which has this beautiful dice rondel mechanism, and basically players are trying to build and construct the Red Cathedral as architects and engineers. The follow-up game, which is a game set in Japan in the Castle series, is a game that I had to buy as soon as I got it. It's called The White Castle. The White Castle is all about drafting dice, 3 different colored dice from little bridges, and then using those dice to create chains or combos of actions. Players are going to try and place 3 different types of workers from their boards onto the castle. So you've got gardeners who give you, I think, resources. You've also got courtiers who kind of ascend the castle, and depending on where they finish in terms of which level of the castle they're in, they get you endgame points. And then you've also got warriors, which you can train to score you extra bonuses. When I first saw this game, it definitely had this ukiyo-e art vibe. And I don't know whether I liked it when I first saw some photos of it, but as soon as I actually unboxed this game and opened the board, it absolutely sold me. I was like, this game looks so good. And one of the really cool things about the White Castle is the fact that there are these cards that match up onto your playboard, as well as in the castle itself with different rows. And so when you trigger or place a particular die that is higher than a number that's printed there, you get money. Or if you place a die that's lower than the number that's printed there, you have to pay money, but then you trigger that colored action in that space. And those actions are not always going to stay static for the entire game. Some of those cards will go onto your player board, which you then can use to activate your own board using different colored dice. And then those actions are going to change and evolve, and you're going to have to think about different ways to connect those actions together to maximize the value. And you only get 9 actions in an entire game, which is a good thing, but also it makes it really, really tight. Also, like creating this lantern row where you get all these chaining bonuses, and being able to explore all these ways things connect together is something that I like to see in a small box Euro. The next game I want to talk about is a game called Copy King, which is basically all about working in a cafe, fulfilling drink orders for customers, and earning the most amount of money. That makes total sense. The way this game works is super simple. You basically have 2 drink order cards in your hand, and you place all the other ingredient cards face down in a messy pile in the center of the table. Then, on the count of go, each player is going to be quickly flipping over ingredient cards and flipping them back down. And when they find an ingredient that matches or is required for one of their drink orders, they tuck them under their drink order card. When they've fulfilled 5 drink orders, the game ends, and then all players add up the total money that they've made, and then see who the winner is. Simple as that. What is really cool about this game is the fast-paced nature. The fact that this is a game you can just play at a pub, you can play it while you're having afternoon tea, but that sense of competitive, quick, tactile movement of trying to get the orders and fulfill the drinks really emulates that feeling of customers adding that pressure and waiting in line. There are also 3 piles of drink orders that are stacked face up, so when you finish your drink order, you can then choose one that is more advantageous to you. And the ones that give you more money are ones that are going to be harder to fulfill or require more ingredients. So you're going to have to think, do you want to grab one that's going to be easy to fulfill and really bring the game abruptly to its end, or really go for one of those high valued ones, because those high valued one means you might beat someone who ends the game quickly. So fun, fast game, beautiful theme and beautiful flavor to the game. This is one I definitely want to take to a cool games night and play it with other people. The last game I want to talk about is a beautiful big box game called Septima. Now, I'd heard about this game from a friend a long time ago, but until I saw it on the shelf, It absolutely spoke to me. I don't know, I always have this thing where when I travel to another destination, I've always got to come back with at least one cool board game, and I think this one is it. I looked at this game and I thought, wow, what a thematic experience. And hopefully I don't get some of these rules wrong. I haven't played it yet, but I'm going to definitely try and get it to the table soon. But basically it's a game where players are playing a coven of witches. You're going around and you're collecting different ingredients to make potions to heal different patients, which increases the bonuses that you get across the game. Now, as you play action cards from your hand, I think there's 9 different actions. If you play an action card that matches another player, you get an additional bonus for that action. If you play an action card that matches the Septima, which is kind of like the head witch, then you also get that bonus. But there comes with a catch. If you match and get that bonus, you will raise the suspicion of the people in the town that you might be a witch, that you might be doing something that might concern them. And so what will happen is you'll put these red villagers into this bag, and at the end of each round, there will be a witch trial, where basically you'll draw these little villagers out of a bag, and there's neutral and negative villagers, and there's also your own villagers. If you have greater dominance, you'll be able to claim that witch's power and use them in your playboard and create a better tableau. What is interesting about that is the fact that at the beginning of the game, you're going to be given a card with 4 different objectives, and you'll be able to only score the number of objectives equal to the number of witches that manages to survive by the last round. Not only that, there's this cool layer of tension is that as you go around this map to collect ingredients, you've got these witch hunters that are on the periphery of the board that kind of chase after you. And as I saw this game kind of play, I was like, when I saw it demoed at PAX, I'm just like, this is totally my jam. And there's an expansion in this game where you can turn your witch or your head witch into an animal, and the animal limits what you can do, but it gives you some extra ability to be able to negate the threat of those hunters from capturing you. And the production value in Septima is absolutely top notch. I absolutely love the art style, and the immersion that this game provides for a Euro is something that I haven't seen before. So I really want to explore this game. This game now has risen to the top of my list of most exciting games I've seen this year, and it's definitely one I'm glad I got a hold of. So what did you think of those games? Are there some games that you've got on your list that you are waiting for or that you're anticipating? Please let me know your stories and your board game convention experiences in the comment section below. Tell me about some of your really great ways to haul some of these board games home, especially when you live far away. Thanks once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really like this video, please consider supporting me by liking and subscribing to this channel. If you want to see the future direction of this channel and influence where it goes, please head over to my Patreon page. This is Danny signing out. Thank you once again for joining me for another board game video, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!